Welcome to Breakthrough Results by LeadingResponse. Each episode will feature a LeadingResponse host and their guest, discussing tips and tricks on how they achieve breakthrough results. This is a place to learn how to grow your business from people just like you.
Hi, thank you for joining me. This is Jen DeBuhr over at LeadingResponse, and I have my guest today is Jessica Weaver. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Hey, Jen. Good. How are you?
Good. So nice to see you.
So good to see you too. Always a pleasure spending time with you.
Always, always. You are such an inspiration. So let me start with a little bit of an introduction about Jessica. She is a multi-hyphenate of multi-hyphenates. Um, she is a TV show host, now syndicated, correct?
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that. I had to check. Bio said 3-time best-selling author. That is now a 5-time best-selling author. International speaker and the founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. And the Women's Wealth Boutique is the fastest growing woman-owned financial firm in the United States.
Yes.
All of that is amazing. So I'd like to start with a little bit about your story and how you got started in the business, where you came from, the early days in the industry, and kind of the catalyst for how you became this multi-hyphenate that you are.
That's a great word, catalyst. I probably all started back. Oh gosh, what year was this? I started in the industry in 2010. Right after college, I joined my father's firm at the same time as my older brother. We spent the summer getting licensed, dove right in, and we were doing probably like the traditional path. We were doing a lot of seminars geared towards families, men and women, whatnot. And a few years in, I finally decided, I think this happens a lot, right, Jen? You've had this idea for a while. You can't figure out how to put it into action. You've just been holding on to it. And finally, I found the courage, whatever it was, to say, I'm going to have an event just for women. It's going to be called Women in Transition. I had mimosas. It was just at the office at our conference room. I had a chocolate tasting. I'm like, what's going to draw women in? It's not going to feel overwhelming, intimidating, and whatnot. So we probably had around 20, 25 women show up. One of my clients was a leader in a divorce support group. So she brought a ton of women as well. And it was amazing to see. And after that event, like driving home from the office is about like 45-minute commute. Like that's when I realized that I love bringing women together and creating an experience. And I talk about this in a book that you are also part of, Beyond the Broker, one of the books that we published at Pink Fix Productions in 2025. And I think that's really what started that little seed that started to get nurtured. And from there, I started the blog, Not Your Father's Advisor. Then we did more events, and that started as I saw the blog picking up. I'm like, there's something here. Women are thirsty for this information. They want to be educated around money. They just don't know how to go about it. So I found books being such an intimate way for women to, one, get to know me, get to know how I work, but also to learn without them feeling like they're putting themselves out there or feeling dumb asking these questions for it too. And what I started to do was, after the first book, I would create a program for women. So I had like my Strong Retirement Club, which was a year program with women. We talked about lifestyle, money, health, estate, legacy planning. And from that information, I created my second book, Time to Refine. And then I did that again with Confessions of a Money Queen. So I would test out these different strategies that I was doing personally and with the women, my female clients. And then I would put it like case studies together with these women. And that would launch the next book and so on and so forth. And then it got to a point where in 2021, I knew I needed to leave the broker-dealer world to have a little bit more open architecture and more control over the compliance side, because dealing with compliance and having all these books and programs, projects, wanting the TV show, being able to do magazines, it was just becoming too much of not a hassle, but
Yeah.
it slowed us down 1,000%. I mean, my last book, they sat on for 10 months. So let my father know that Wow, I really appreciate all that he's done for me, but I kind of outgrew this position and where I saw the future going and creating this community for women. So then in March of 2022, I left my father's firm to launch the Women's Wealth Boutique, which has now become the Wealth Boutique. And then in last year, 2024, we launched Pink Fix Productions, our multimedia platform community, where we put together books, anthology books. We now have 2 TV shows. We do our magazine, our events, our retreats, and all of that. But I really started with that event back in my father's office years ago and just bringing women together and seeing the power of it.
It has always been such a passion of mine, as you know, so important to me. And I have felt like for all of these years that women have felt left out of the conversation around their finances, around their personal money. Like it's left out. It's been one man talking to another man about their money, and they feel left out of that, and it hurts my heart. And so, as I found out what you were doing and all of the movements that you were making in the industry, I was so inspired by that and, joyfully said yes to all things Jessica. Um, so tell me a little bit about your early days in the industry in your father's firm as a young woman coming into this male-dominated industry. And I know you've mentioned it feeling like an outsider, like how that felt to you to be in the business as a young woman. Because I've heard lots of young women tell these stories and how intimidating that was for them.
Yes, and I was privileged to be at my father's firm where there wasn't a man assaulting me or harassing me, right? It wasn't I didn't have that experience at all where I know a lot of women have had that experience, but it was a lot of the wholesalers coming in and making these jokes about their wives, and it's all men in the room and myself. I'm thinking, "This is very uncomfortable, for me, and you're talking about your wife this way as a bonding thing." Which was strange. Every once in a while, comments about, how I'm dressing or "You're pretty, you should smile more," things like that as well. And there were women in the office, but like most office setups, they're the support team, right? They're the client relationship managers, they're the office managers and whatnot. So early on, I did reach out to a few successful female advisors, and they all shot me down, saying they didn't have time to speak with me. And it kind of broke my heart and made me retreat inward for a period of time. And then I went to the broker deal at the time. They had a women's conference, and I went to it. And that opened up my eyes to see there are women who are willing to share, celebrate each other, share best practices, and really collaborate with. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity because it opened up my mind to see there are other women who want to be there to support each other. And that kind of started on this path. I then joined one of my business coaches. She had it was a 6-month female mentorship where we would get together twice for a few days at the beginning, at the end of the mentorship. There's a lot of accountability there. And I remember crying after one of the first time. Like, I finally feel like I've found women who get me, who are like me, and it was incredible to see, too. So when you can find those pockets of people that are there for you, that are wired similar to you, like, you latch on to those people because it's really gonna help you move a lot farther than you ever thought possible.
And you feel this immediate sense of connection to them that there's a similar mission, there's a similar vision, there's a similar inspiration for what we can all accomplish together.
Yes. Oh, 1000%. Mhm.
So when you made the transition into your own RIA, I remember when we spoke about it last year. I don't know if that's true. It was all women
Yes.
working at what is now the Wealth Boutique. I guess originally was the Women's Wealth Boutique. All women. Is it still all women that work there
It
with you?
is yes, it is still all women, and what we're looking for, because someone on our team, like, "What if my son wants to join?" So we did wanna make it a little bit more open architect, for men, but we want it to be women-led teams.
So women right, but more inclusive.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So still we are currently all women. We are in I'm looking at our I have a pink map. We do a pinning ceremony whenever we get an advisor in a new state. We just brought in an advisor from Texas. So we have Texas, Indiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Virginia, and there's 2 of us in New Jersey, soon to be 3, and hopefully 4 because 2 of our team members are in the process of getting licensed as well. Looking forward to. Mhm.
Do you know that there are some very wonderful men in the business who I know men who I have worked with over the years who have really dedicated their lives to helping women and speaking to women and making sure that women understand their finances and men that share that same vision with us. So they are certainly out there and doing their part.
Yes. And I have to commend my father. He taught me early on, he said, you have to make eye contact with the women and give them space to be heard and seen in the meetings. And I think it came from him having to take care of his mom, my grandmother, who became a widow in her early 60s, and the husband always taking care of the money. So whenever he meets with a woman, he kind of views them, this stepping back into that role of taking care of his mother. So there are amazing men out there who do proactively engage with women and educate them, as you said, Jen.
Yeah. I remember once I took it a little bit too far. I had so many times felt disrespected by men who would speak over me and to my husband, in so many different areas. We're just not talking finances, but just in whatever the case may be. I mean, really commonly in home improvement type stuff, they would speak to him, and I would be thoroughly offended by that. And so then whenever I was in a meeting, I was speaking to the women specifically so that they would feel included. And once, someone came back to me, a male advisor had come back to me and he goes, "I was really offended." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what did I do?" He goes, "You spoke as it to all the women in the group as if I didn't exist." And I was like, "Oh my God, I did to you what I was so trying hard that none of the women would feel. I am so sorry. I did not realize like I had taken it in the complete other direction." Yeah. So
I had a similar situation. We're working with a local company, and there's a male owner and a female owner, and we're talking succession planning, Jen. And usually when talking succession planning, I try to, in the analogies, kill both of them off evenly. If that makes sense, right? Okay, let's say Bob passes away. Let's say Ann passes away. But for some reason, I kept killing off the male owner. And I did it. I'm like, I'm very sorry. I did not mean to keep killing off you. I tried to, but it happens.
we've done it. And the effort to be inclusive. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's happened in reverse many, many times. So we learn. I was having a conversation with my daughter about something, and I was, in the wise words of Dolly Parton, I was like, "Once you know better, you do better."
Amen. Yes. At least, yeah, we could take the feedback, apologize, and learn from it.
So tell me about this transition into all of it, but definitely into your RIA. Like, what was the biggest challenge that you came across with that was either expected or unexpected or hit you out of left field? Because this newest book, Beyond the Broker, is about women going independent. So what may they walk into that you walked into, whether you knew it was coming or not, that hit you?
Sure. I think the length of time for the
Yeah.
onboarding with the different technologies and the platforms and the cost. Even though I worked with several companies and they would do a cost breakdown for me, like, it's not going to cost that much money. No, it did. It did. Um, for it. So I think just the learning curve was insane for me. And at that time, I did not have a ton of our own support staff. Fortunately, I was able to get financing. We brought on Camille Letta, our amazing director of operations, and just being able to start to build out the team has helped us. I mean, we've grown about 150% each year. When you look at our
Wow.
business evaluation and our AUM, it's been incredible. So now we're able to start filling in those key pieces. Now we're about to bring in a CCO, Chief Compliance Officer, so that I can start focusing on where I really shine. And speaking, compliance is not it. Number two, it's exciting to see and think of like who can we now piece in a business consultant for advisors, a recruiter to bring more women into us and educate women about what we're doing here, as well an onboarding transition person and things like that. But it was a lot. It was a lot of work. And when I opened it, it wasn't just me. I had a few advisors already ready to join us and onboard. They knew, I'm like, we're in construction phase. I'm just warning you, you're coming, you're welcome to come, but we're not going to have everything set up for some time now, for several months. So we onboarded 3 advisors within the first 5-6 months of opening up our doors at the Wealth Boutique. So having to put systems in place very quickly and then teaching these ladies about those systems as well. And they're all coming. We had one from on the insurance side. We had somebody from Merrill Lynch. We had another person from an independent broker dealer. So it's interesting. They're all coming from different backgrounds to it. So what they know about compliance is so different depending on where they come from, how restrictive they were, how open-minded they were as well. If there was more of employee setup, like a lot of the wirehouses, those captive firms as well too. So it was all of us learning a lot together, um, which has been incredible. I remember one advisor, Caroline, she goes, "It feels like I opened a door up to a mansion." And then I had to figure out, because she came from a very captive firm, figure out, where do I want to play in the mansion? Where do I want to spend my time? Because there was so much she could do. Really had to narrow it down, her focus for her. But also giving her some grace to see, where does she get excited? Now she does amazing work doing speaking engagements. She goes into HR departments of these large corporations, and she now speaks to these corporations on finance, or teaching the children about finance as well. So it's been really cool to see the growth and transformation of everyone during the transition.
The one thing I know for sure about compliance is that no two compliance officers of any sort view things the same way, not even necessarily at the same organization. You're going to get completely different answers.
Oh,
Uh,
that's true.
so that interpretation is broad. So that's not a
Yes.
surprise.
And I'll give you an example of this. We have 3 authors. We've done financial trendsetters. We're now doing financial trendsetters 2.0. All the book proceeds go to our scholarship fund, along with the Beyond the Broker book proceeds. So we have 3 ladies at the same independent broker dealer. And we were ping-ponging back and forth because each one of them were told something different on what to do with their book chapter. Do I need an OBA? Do I not need an OBA? Do I need to submit it to compliance? Do I need to submit the whole book to compliance? It blew our mind.
Yeah.
Always goes on.
I love Sarah Blakely says to always hire for your weaknesses. And I know that's something that I look to do myself, is like, where do I not shine? And so I have a master's. My master's is in management and leadership, and people frequently mistake that as an MBA. And I'm like, no, I specifically did not get the MBA. And the reason I didn't is because of the whole accounting element. And it is my least favorite part of my job. So, like, whenever my next hire needs to be someone who is just a master in the spreadsheets, because that's where I'm least happy, is doing that. So,
Oh, I agree. Oh, yeah, we couldn't operate without the team.
yeah.
We could not. I'm okay with technology. I'm not fantastic. I'm much a hands-on learner
How
with
would I
it.
know that? Because you're very high tech.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we have Cammie, we have Alyssa. Alyssa, this genius where she is the daughter of an engineer and an interior decorator. So she's able to create beautiful things, but then the technical side of it to implement it. And Cammie's our processes and systems girl. She'll take the technology, she's gonna systematize it for us, um, as well. And Sarah, our paraplanner and client relationship manager, she is the most thorough person I've ever met. The follow-up, which is what you need in that role, is incredible, for it too. So I agree with that. Yeah, you hire for your weaknesses, and it's not, what is that one book? It's not how, it's who. We get so caught up in, well, how am I gonna get this done? How does this even work? You find the right person. That's how.
Someone who loves that. Yeah. The right person who loves compliance in your case, or in my case, the right person who loves spreadsheets. Yeah. There's people who really thrive in that.
They do, and it is, instead of it tearing your energy down, bringing it down, is lighting them up.
Yep.
Mhm.
So how are you managing it all? Because you were doing so much. Because when I left out in the intro and then you added in, I was like, oh, not just best-selling author, not just syndicated TV show host, not just owner of this fastest growing RIA, but female-led RIA, but also a parent and all of these things. So how do you do all of this in a day? There's not enough hours in the day for all the things you're doing.
I sleep like a rock. And at that point, I'm done. I'm not a night person at all. By 8:30, my teeth are brushed and I'm ready for bed. Um, Once I get the kids to bed, I have a 7-year-old and 5-year-olds. I'm shot. I start very early. I train for Ironmans with my husband as our thing that we do together. So I do a lot of work getting grounded for the day while I'm running on the treadmill or I'm biking downstairs, my reading, my centering activities. I spend a lot of time with God during that moment. And then I hit the door, 8 o'clock, 8:15, I'm in the office. And there are days like today where I'm back to back meetings nonstop. And I think you just have to be really adaptable because I'm switching hats very quickly. We had our traction meeting earlier today, and then I had a TV interview for our show, and I had an annual review with the client, and then I'm here with you. So switching my energies very quickly. I've learned a ton that way, but it's all comes back to the team. Could not do all of this without the team and learning to delegate, which I struggled with at first, and I think a lot of women struggle with, of letting go of the control. I'm a control freak, and sometimes I'll let go of the control and then I'll micromanage or I'll look over their shoulder, but you really have to delegate and trust and know that it's not gonna get done exactly how you thought, but you gotta let go of that energy because the team is there and they need to learn too. You have to be okay with the team making mistakes, not huge mistakes, but little ones, because they're gonna be the future trainers for that next hire too. So they need to learn from their mistakes, understand how to deal with them so that when they hire and they're managing the next group of people, they know how to do the same thing as well too. So giving them a lot of grace, and structure. I feel like that first hire it's very tough, but then if you have bring on that good first hire and they start to systematize everything, that next one is much, much easier too. So I invest a lot in the team and their career growth. We sit down with all of them once a year and we look at what is their career goals and aspirations and how through the year can we keep investing in those so that they continue to grow. I also have them all keep a sheet next to their work that are their future delegating items and tasks that don't light them up. So let's say Cammie's stuck doing spreadsheets, but she hates spreadsheets. Well, that's on her list, and then that becomes a job description for the next hire that's going to support them. Because for this amount of growth, you really have to continuously invest in the team. uh, to me, growth is always a capacity issue. Like if you're building your team for the growth, you won't stall out. So we're constantly looking at, who is going to be that next hire to support the different people on the team.
That's such excellent advice for anyone in business and growing their business, regardless of the industry. So you mentioned God in part of that, and I know spirituality is so big for you. And so I assume that also helps in keeping you grounded and giving you this deep sense of purpose in your work.
Yes. Oh, 1000%. I call it a daily money practice that I do every morning. I got my journal here, and I will go through a page of what I'm grateful for. And then after that, when I get really centered on my gratitude, I go, what am I calling in? How do I align with it? I do a body check to see where am I kind of repelling it or not fully ready to take it on. And if there is something, there's something in my subconscious that I'm holding on to, whether it's a trauma or a fear or a trust issue, anything like that. Then I go into a meditation, which you just, when you have to make so many decisions all the time, and sometimes the team might be needy, sometimes clients might be needy, and then you go home and your kids aren't needy. Everybody's needing me. You need to then give back to yourself. And I call it a massage on your nervous system when you meditate. Just calm everything down, get super clear and focused. And as God says in the Bible, like tomorrow has plenty of worries, or today has plenty of worries. Don't even worry about tomorrow, right? Just focus on what needs to get done today. Because when you don't want to go through that rabbit hole of there's so many things going on. How are we ever going to get it done? Just focus on, well, what is it today that I can do to ignite or spark change for tomorrow?
I love that. I have had a gratitude practice, a daily gratitude practice for over 20 years. And as a result of that, that's really become second nature for me. So my go-to in times of stress is what am I grateful for? Like it just happens automatically in me because I've been doing it for so long that when things get overwhelming, like that's where I hit. And I'm really trying to teach my daughter that, and she struggles. Like when she's angry or frustrated, or I'm like, can we think of something that we're grateful for? And she's like, not right now. I'm like, okay, we'll get there.
My daughter's
Okay.
the same way, Jen. When she starts to go, and I had the worst day ever at that point.
Worst day ever.
Age. Yes. I'm like, okay, well, can we think of just a few things that you love, that light you up, that you're grateful for? And you're it is, but it's good just that's a quick reset for them, just to get out of their own headspace for a moment.
I'll keep trying. I think eventually, like
Yeah.
she's my daughter's 8.5, and so maybe we're just not there at the maturity level, but we'll keep going, and then one day we'll be ready, to start
Yes.
incorporating that.
And you know,
Stuff like children.
she might be doing it internally when she's not with you too.
Well, and when she's not upset, it's much different. It's so easy to be grateful when we're not upset, right? It's when I'm trying to flip the switch because
Yeah.
she's yeah, and that's hard for all of us, quite frankly, regardless of age.
It is. And they got these big emotions going on at that age. They're trying to figure it all out. Yeah, I would not go back to that age.
And what I tell her all the time too, I'm like, it's hard for us. It's hard for us as grown-ups to know these things. Of course it's hard for you. Like, you haven't even begun to learn the skill sets for that yet.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I know you have 1,000 things. I just have a couple more questions.
Yeah, of course.
So what would you want to tell a new female financial advisor coming into the industry? Well, what advice would you give her? What advice do you give her? Because I know that you're speaking to her all the time in your TV shows, in your podcasts, in your books. What does she need to know?
Ooh. And I will get on the phone with any or on a Zoom with any woman in the industry. I love to speak with them. I get a lot of daughters of advisors reaching out to me because they struggle with the same things that I struggled with, two different generations, two different viewpoints and whatnot. I would say find a way to be your authentic self in the industry, right? Don't put on the uniform. And this is what I did early on, right? I thought, I need to look like everybody else. I need to sound like everybody else. But you just end up blending in, right? Find that spark that lights you up on what you love to speak about. Who do you love to work with and help? And go deep there. Just keep going deep there. Be your authentic self and find the people that allow you to be authentic self. So if you're at a firm and you're criticized when you wear too much pink, or I love to wear sneakers to the office. They're really fun, sparkly sneakers. But if you're criticized for those things, you're probably not at the right firm. And if you feel like you have to hide pieces of yourself, you're probably not at the right place or surrounded by the right people. So I would say, one, allow yourself to be you and find the right people that embrace that aspect of you. We're hiring right now. In the one interview, he was asking, he's like, what's the dress code here? I'm like, I don't really like you to hone your own brand. Like, what is your style? I want you to be professional, put together. But if it's a blazer with nice jeans and some boots, rock it, girl. I want you to show up. So all of how we all dress is very different, but we look like we represent ourselves. Cami goes for a walk an hour every day doing work. So she also owns some really kick-ass sneakers.
Oh, I am all in on the suits and sneakers. I do it now all the time for every event. I will refuse to put on heels for trade shows anymore these days. I'm not doing it. Those days are over. I suffered with that way too long. I love the trend of sneakers with our outfits now.
Is the best thing ever. Even you were at, did you say for our gala? I'm trying to remember. No, you weren't able to say for the gala.
No, I wasn't here last year. No.
Yes. Well, by the end of the night, most of us had sparkly sneakers on by the end of the night, and it was amazing. Best feeling in the world. But yeah, be who you are, allow yourself to be who you are, and find the right people because we are there. So if you feel like you're not in the right place, reach out to me. Happy to jump on a call and point you in the right direction. But there are places that allow it and celebrate it too.
Celebrate it and celebrate you being you. Yes. We need to find that.
Yes.
Right. So you and I have talked in many conversations about this idea of being limitless. And I shared my story with you about how I limited myself for so long, unknowingly,
Yeah.
just not being willing to, not knowing, not giving myself permission to dream big enough until I was encouraged. Like someone just kept telling me to go bigger, keep going bigger. And like I look at you and you are so limitless and you are living this life of abundance in all areas. It's really amazing. But yet I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you have moments of insecurity that all of us as women and men too have these times of imposter syndrome that we go through, or these feelings of doubt, or these feelings of what's going to happen on the other side. I don't know. When you're taking these big risks that you take. So, how do you push yourself into that limitless space that you seem to be living in?
My gosh. And even when you're talking about, I'm like, that's not me. Seems like you've been interviewing. It's not me at all. But yeah, I think a big thing that I struggled with for a long time, and it probably was with compliance and just the industry standard, was being an advisor and the CEO of the Wealth Boutique, and then doing the books, writing the books, speaking on stages, having that other persona to myself. And I always felt like I had to pick. And then I'd have to sacrifice one for the other. And really until the last year did I fully allow myself to one, they work so well together that one wouldn't be the one without the other side of it too. And what we're able to do for us, for our advisors, and position themselves as these thought leaders and forging these missions forward um, is incredible. But I would say one, Alyssa Goman, our creative director, she's a certified heart healer. So I've done a lot of sessions with her to go through what trauma did I grow up around. And an easy example is my grandmother, my mom's mom, was a very successful. She had two different TV shows. One was a children's show, one was a talk show. She interviewed Sonny and Cher and these amazing celebrities on her show. It was highly rated in the DC area. But that was her focus, right? She was a mom, but the nannies raised my mom and her brothers. Her focus was her career. And growing up, my mom repeatedly would say, my mom chose her career, I chose my family. So I kept having this internal dialogue, like you can't do both well. You would have to pick. So I think that was the first one that I had to overcome was I can be a great mother and a successful business owner or professional. And I bring my daughter, she's on our show. She has this little segment where she asks every guest, what makes you a woman behind the millions? She sang at our gala last year. She sang a Taylor Swift song in front of 100 people, live streaming it to her show. It's like she sees it that she can also shine. And I'm grateful that I'm able to give her places where she can shine. That's part of my work too. And my son donned a hot pink bow tie at the event. And then that theme kind of carried on to like, well, now you have to pick not just between being a mom and a business owner, but between your two businesses, which is like choosing between my two kids for it too. So I think going through like, why do we have these beliefs and feelings that we have to pick or sacrifice one for the other? Because it's not true at all when you look at it. And both can flourish and both have been flourishing and will continue. There are moments where like we do have a lot going on. We have our big May events coming up. We just hosted an event for our advisors. We're launching a few new books. Our TV show, the other TV show, we're about to start season 2 for with it. But then I think back, okay, when I get to that moment of overwhelm, like this is when we need to hire somebody and take something off of my plate. So instead of stopping, I just, okay, who can we fill in that's going to relieve this extra work for myself and allow it to continue to grow. And I'll share this 4-step process that I do when I feel like I'm starting to go into that scarcity mode. There's not enough time. I'm taking on too much. There's not enough money coming in. What is that belief? What's that thought? What's the feeling associated with it? So is it anger, sadness, scared, hurt? What is it? And then I think of what's a more expansive view or thought on this. And then what's that new feeling that I associate it with? And I found that's really opened up myself and all of our advisors and our team to think differently. So one thing I'm working on now is I bring a lot of money to the firm. I don't pay myself a lot. I reinvest a lot in. So I'm sacrificing, going back to sacrifice myself for the firm because I grew up thinking and hearing a lot of the things of, right, you sacrifice startups until at some point you're able to sell and that's where you make your money. It's not true. That's another limiting belief we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
So changing that perspective or that belief to the more that I pay myself, the more the firm grows. Right? Much more expansive, much more abundant in alignment. So just shifting those thoughts into that channel, saying it throughout the day regularly. And then what's that feeling? It's like, oh, that actually does make a lot of sense. Because as I pay myself more, I can get more help at home, get more help at work. I have more energy to focus on things I want to focus on at work that brings in the money as well. And it just keeps pushing me more and more into that zone of genius where the money comes in and the opportunities and where I really shine too. So I think just questioning those limiting beliefs that are telling you you're limitless or you have to sacrifice or there's a trade-off and telling your brain, no, there's a different way we can do this.
No, I think telling yourself that you deserve for all your hard work to get paid too. Not just pay everyone else, not just everyone else be successful, but you also deserve that. And we teach that by example to all of those around us, whether it is the other women that are looking up to us or to our own daughters, to our own children. We need to teach them that they deserve that they're worthy of living limitless lives and getting paid everything that they work hard for, and all of those things that we have to retrain ourselves.
I know. I need to record that and then listen to you telling me that on a regular basis.
Everyone deserve it.
Take that clip, put it on your phone, meditate to it every morning.
I'll send it over to you.
Okay.
Okay. So there's 1,000 ways to find you. What are the best ways for someone looking to find you? Where should they go?
Sure. So thewealthboutique.com or womenswealthboutique.com. We did keep that name because women do love it. And I love it too, secretly. Or thinkfixproductions.com is where we have all of our books, TV shows, magazines, events, and whatnot too. And then on Instagram, we have at Women's Wealth Boutique and at Pink Fix My Money because pink fixes everything in my life, Jen.
Every time I'm with you, I will wear some shade of pink in your honor typically. I'm like,
this is a very pretty shade on you, Jen, with your hair when you're skin color. Very pretty.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I am so grateful to get to spend some time chatting with you as always.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on here, Jen. Your chapter in Beyond the Broker is amazing, and it got me so many ideas for later this year. So we're going to have to connect on those too.
Oh, I can't wait.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.